Hi everyone, I'm FPL Useless, bringing you my own unique take on FPL, and today I'm going to be looking at my Game Week 12 team, reviewing how it went. It didn't go that well, and also looking at my team going forwards, any changes I can make to try and salvage this season so far is not going well. Well, if Game Week 11 was a burning skipfire, then Game Week 12 was a nuclear explosion. Well, maybe not quite, that's a bit of an exaggeration. For me, it didn't go as well as I had hoped. I was quite optimistic this week. The team looked pretty good, even though last week the Game Week 11 was really bad. And well, it just didn't. You see, the story of my season so far is that the general picks, the players that I've picked overall, haven't been that bad. Even though I've gone quite differential on some picks, a lot of them have done quite well. Bone has been quite good. Trippier, who I've had from pretty early on, from game week 5 or 6, has done well, and Darwin Núñez has done okay. So the players that I've picked have been fine generally. It's just that I've got my captaincies totally wrong. Had I got my captain picks better, or gone even gone the more boring route and just gone for Haaland every week or Salah every week, depending which one I've had, I think I would be. Well, I know I would be hundreds of thousands of places higher up. Um, and a lot closer to the top. At the moment, it's not going that well. So let's have a look. I mean, Areola, 2 points. He was my only choice because Turner has now been dropped, and I think a lot of people have Areola anyway. I can't. Cash, Cash, 2 points. So that was a blank. Saliba was a good transfer in. I swapped him in for Burn, and he came in and scored a goal and got the bonus points, so he got 9 points. That was a good one. I did think that Arsenal would get a clean sheet against Burnley, but they didn't. So for anyone who went Gabriel instead, because they perhaps couldn't afford Saliba, they were unfortunate because they would have just got the 2 points. If you went for Zinchenko, I think that was even better. Did he score and assist, I think? Anyway, Trippier. This is where it started to go wrong. So I'd captained Ferguson, and on paper that looked like a reasonable choice. I think Ferguson is a great player, and it looked like to me that he was now going to be the first choice striker in, at least for a lot of the league games for Brighton. Pedro played 90 minutes in the Europa League, and Ferguson, I don't think he played any minutes, but he he was playing Sheffield United away, and they benched both Pedro and Ferguson. So Ferguson didn't even start. Now that would have been fine for me had I moved the vice captaincy onto Salah, which I was meaning to do, but then I sort of thought, no, I'll leave it on Trippier because I think Trippier will get a clean sheet against Bournemouth, and Trippier is great for bonus. He might get something. I wasn't I wasn't quite sure. I thought Salah might score or do something against Brentford, but I thought Brentford was perhaps a little bit of a harder fixture than people were thinking. But I was wrong, and Salah scored 2 goals. Trippier let in. They didn't do very well in that game. Lost 2-0, was it? I mean, at the end of the game, I don't know if you saw it. Trippier was kind of arguing with some of the fans and saying, "Yeah, but we haven't. How many injuries have we got?" And I'd kind of underestimated that. They have got a lot of injuries at the moment, and they did look pretty weak in that game. They didn't play particularly well, so it's a bit of a concern. Up until the Manchester City game, I was on a small green arrow, so it looked like even though I'd my captain got 1 point double to two, it because Trent was coming in for 7 points. He got a clean sheet, and there must have been one bonus as well. Then, then it looked like I might just about get away with it. But then Holland absolutely smashed it. I mean, I don't think Alvarez did anything. So that no, Alvarez matched Darwin, so that was no real concern. I think they both got 5 points. Watkins on 6 points. So overall, a quite a big red arrow down to 1.7 million rank, and the season looks like it's pretty much over. But I'm playing this game to have fun, and at some point you just sort of look and laugh and think, oh well, that went well, didn't it? And posted on Twitter my captaincy pick and my vice captaincy pick, and it's just quite funny, really. What can you say? So let's have a look at the team going forward, and hopefully things might start to get better. They can't really get any worse, can they? At least I hope not. So this is my team going forward into game week 13. Now, there is an international break, of course, so I look forward to that on Twitter. I'm sure there are plenty of things to keep us entertained on there, such as World Cups for random items. I don't know, a World Cup of which is the best lamppost or something. So look forward to that. But at the moment, this is my team for game week 13. And as I say, a lot of things can happen in the international break. There might be injuries and things. I only have one free transfer, so Areola at the moment will be the goalkeeper, because unless I make a goalkeeper transfer, which I'm not really looking to do, West Ham play Burnley. Some of these fixtures look pretty good and some look quite tricky. Guahi of Crystal Palace, who has Luton away. So happy to play him there. Although Luton look better at home, and they're perhaps not the pushovers that we kind of thought they were at the beginning of the season. They look like they're competitive, so they may well get a goal there. But then Saliba of Arsenal, Brentford away, Trippier, who plays Chelsea at home, and hopefully Newcastle look a bit better in that game. Chelsea seem to be playing better against the so-called bigger teams, or in the bigger matches. I mean, that game against Manchester City last night was a fantastic game. Forget about FPL for a minute, because well, it ruined me with Haaland scoring all those goals. Obviously, that could happen. With the no Haaland thing, it was always a possibility. In fact, I kind of thought it was likely that he would score a lot of goals, and was just hoping that my team over that period could match that, or that my players would beat that overall. The weird thing is, I don't think I would be that far behind had I got the captaincy picks right. I might even be just about breaking even. I think there were a couple of cheap enablers such as Palmer and Neto that have meant that the Haaland and Salah team has probably performed better than those people could have even expected, because those players have been so fantastic. I mean, Palmer's had 4 penalties and scored them all. So if you've played him each week, fair play to you, even through these difficult fixtures, because he's got a lot of points. Anyway, so hopefully he doesn't get a penalty against Newcastle next week, unless I bring him in, and then I'll want him to. Martinelli. Now, Martinelli was the one that I brought in for Maddison. Maddison looks like he's injured for a long period of time, unfortunately. And that, to me, looks like it's Spurs' title challenge over, unfortunately, for Spurs. Because, not only the Maddison injury, but also the Van de Ven. Because those two players are so important to them. Van de Ven looks like a fantastic defender, and he's out long term too. They've also got Romero out for another couple of games with his sending off. Udogie should be back, but I mean, they've got cover for him anyway. And Son, obviously, I've got in my team there playing Aston Villa. Now, when I looked at it before, I was thinking, well, Son is probably an easy hold because he's a great player. He's playing centrally. He's going to be the main point of that attack. And Spurs were playing well, and now suddenly Madison out. That does make him a maybe. I'm not sure how much worse it makes him, but it's a little bit of a concern. I might have to deal with him and get, or I might look at swapping him for a cheaper player. This would mean, because if I did that, I could eventually look at getting a team where I have both Salah and Haaland. And originally my plan was to swap Salah out around about game week 16, make two transfers and bring Haaland in. Salah has been brilliant though. He's outscored in terms of FPL points. He's outscored Haaland so far, I believe. So I could do something different. And if Son is not as good a pick, then I don't mind downgrading him to someone else. And I'd also probably have to get rid of Trent or another player, and it probably would be Trent because that experiment so far hasn't really worked. He hasn't been worth the extra money. He's ticked over with some decent points. Simicas, what a troll! Because if anybody was looking at him, he in the Europa League game, he looked awful. It looked like he was going to be dropped, and he didn't. Now, he didn't start the previous game, did he? Because Gomez started, so it looked like he's going to play Gomez. Gomez probably got a knock or an injury or something, so he's not wasn't even in the squad. And Simicas came up with 2 assists. I mean, the second one was just a sideways pass for a brilliant shot from Jota, but it's still so. Simicas absolutely smashed it, got loads of points, and you'd probably be pretty gutted if you swapped him out for someone, which looked like probably the right move at the time. Anyway, so Bowen has been good because he's ticked over with points and he has Burnley away. So he could be my captaincy shout. I'm talking about choosing wiser for my captain and maybe just going boring picking Salah and Holland or whoever. And there I have it on Bowen. So I haven't learned my lesson so far. But Bowen has ticked along with points. He's been very good. He's been really worth it, and I'm glad he's in my team. Um, so I could move it away from him. Salah playing Manchester City away. Could he score against Manchester City? Of course he could. I don't think I want to put the captaincy on him. We'll have to see what happens after the international break with Ferguson and see. I think he must have been injured or something. So could he play against Nottingham Forest away? Yes, that's a massive bit of a concern now. What's going to happen with him going forward? So I need to probably reassess that and see if I need to bring someone else in, or restructure the side or something. Play defenders instead. I've got cover on the bench for defenders, but they don't have great fixtures this week. Watkins plays Spurs. Spurs without Van der Ven might not be that great defensively, and certainly not as fast in defence without Van der Ven. Watkins is pretty fast. Maybe you can get him behind the defence. Maybe the same for Son against Aston Villa. And Darwin Núñez plays Manchester City. Feel a bit hard done to with Núñez because he could have had an absolute hatful across this period. He really could, and he's on some games he's been wasteful, which is typical. But in the last game, they played Brentford, he had the ball in the back of the net twice, and they're both offside. I think the second one was quite clear, but the first one was pretty close. He did provide a little sideways pass to Salah, which Salah scored a goal, so he got 5 points. And so I'm not too disappointed. At least he's ticking over with some points, but he's kind of sort of matching Alvarez for output at the moment. I think 1 week Alvarez got a load more points than him. So, yeah, Turner on the bench probably won't play. Alexander Arnold on the bench against Manchester City. I mean, he's very creative. I can't see anything other than Manchester City scoring goals, and I think they'll probably score more than two or more than one. Some two or more, I think. So it looks like I'd probably bench Trent, which then makes me wonder if it's worth transferring him out. But then they have better fixtures. They have three better fixtures after that, so I may wait on that. Cash playing Spurs away, and Cash, when I've had him, hasn't been very good. He's had some massive hauls and he hasn't been in my team for it. A bit like Watkins, actually. I didn't get the massive hauls with Watkins. He's ticked over with a few, but he hasn't done much. So my finger there hovering over the delete button for my team, but no, I'm going to persevere and keep going and have a look at some transfers instead. Okay, so obviously I'm not going to really make any rash transfers. I think I've got reasonable team value at the moment, and we'll wait and see what happens with this international break. Uh, Everyone goes crazy on over the international break. They get bored, especially on Twitter. I think people just really get fed up. I quite like watching the international games, but and sometimes it's nice to have a little break from FPL. I don't take it quite. You can probably tell I don't take it quite as seriously as some other people, but and nevertheless, we need to have a look at what I'm probably going to do going forwards. So I'll have a look at see if there's anyone I need to replace with injury. Martinelli seemed to hobble off with an injury, so need to find out what that injury is like. I've only just brought him in. Annoyingly, I mean, the player I wanted to bring in was Saka, and it we knew Saka had a knock. It looked too risky to bring him in, even though even though Arteta seems to play him with, if he'd got no arms and no legs, he would still play him. Which reminds me of that scene like Monty Python, where the guy's got no arms and legs, and he's like, basic, just a flesh wound. And Saka would probably come on, play, and then hobble off again. But no, instead he did play. I think did he play the full game? Got an assist, so that would have been the better transfer. And Saka would be the player that I would want going forward. But because I did the Saliba move, which looked like a sensible move to do to sort out Burn, just so I had some extra cover as well. That means that now I don't have enough money to get Saka, unless I do Son to Saka actually, which I could do. Yeah, I could do that. So he's the main injury concern, really. Cash looks like now he's good. I mean, his good fixtures sort of come to an end, and it might be time to get rid of him to move him out for someone with slightly better fixtures. Could downgrade Trent. Because he's not really living up to that price tag. At one point, I mean, the beginning of last week, I was looking at a transfer where I would have done Trent down to Simicast and then got Saka in for Chukwuemeka because I had enough money to do it that way. Would have given me a benching headache, and also then it looked like Simicast was likely not to start or have reduced minutes and things because of the way he played in the Europa League, and also because he was benched last week. So it I didn't do that. That would have been an incredibly good transfer to do had I done that, because Simicast smashed it. Saka got more points than Martinelli, and my team would have looked quite good going forward had I done that, but didn't do that. I don't know what the situation with Simicast is, so I'm probably not going to go there anyway. So it could be Trent down to someone. I've got to keep in the back of my mind a route back to Haaland, because I probably want him at the latest for game week 16 when they play Luton. Which he will probably blank in, because he seems to be scoring more goals against the good teams. He didn't score any goals against Bournemouth. I say good teams. Manchester United, he battered. He scored 2 goals against Chelsea. So, yeah, and then Son, which I've just mentioned, Son. So, those are some of my options. What do you think? Is there anything I've forgotten? What any other transfers that I could do? let me know, and I'll see you in the next video.